All right, so the next map we're looking at is Battle for Gilneas. We have the Alliance spawn with blue, and we got the Horde spawn over here. And there's 3 bases, mines, lighthouse, and waterworks. For each base that you hold on these base capture maps, you get points. Whoever maxes out points at 1500 first wins the game. But what's important to note is that it's not a linear point increase for each base that you have. If you control 2 of the bases in Gilneas, you're going to be obtaining points at approximately 3 times the rate of the other team, which only has 1 base. What this means is that even if you have a huge point deficit, something like 0 points to like 1000, even in a crazy example, if you're controlling 2 bases, they're controlling 1 and you're able to hold them, you're actually still going to win. This is a map where the add-on capping is really useful to see what the final endpoint result is going to be, to make sure that you're actually not getting up too early, but you can win with 2 base caps. The buffs on this map are located in these little huts here, Berserking and Leaf to get alternated between the 2. One of them always has the other and it switches back and forth. And you have the speed buff here and over here. So the strategy for this map is actually super simple. Since there's only 3 bases, you're just gonna have your 1 tank probably, or a rogue or something, come capture this map right at the start, capture this base right at the start. The rest of your team comes around and comes to fight at the team fight at Waterworks, where the whole entire enemy team is gonna be. If you start to win the fight at Waterworks, you might want to have some players peel back out, assuming you're still gonna keep winning the fight here, to defend Lighthouse, because the enemy team is going to come around and try to get this instead, as is their only chance. Whereas if you're losing this fight here, you might want to have your rezzers group up and come around this way or this way and try to get a hit on mines, because you definitely need the second base as soon as possible. And here you can just keep spinning with your healers. Something else you can do is that your rogue can actually either peel out of the fight or just not come with you at all and hit the mines right at the start to try to get a stealth cap or a CC cap. It's important to know that it takes 6 seconds of channeling to capture the base. Breaks on all sorts of damage, including things like Immolation Aura. But knowing that it's 6 seconds is important, so you know that which CCs can work long enough for you to capture, for example Sap and Blind, and which ones don't, such as most stuns. It also helps if you know how far away they are, if they can get to you and stop you from capping. You might be able to throw a smoke bomb down or something to stop them from interrupting you. And honestly, that's the whole map. Like, after you finish the mid fight here, if you're winning, just split your team like half here, and have some floaters in the middle ready to pull to whichever base the enemy is going to hit. And it's a lot easier to defend the base because all you're going to do is hit them once to stop the channel. The team which gets a 2 in the very first team fight has a massive advantage on this map to just carry over a win to the end. On the other hand, if you have lost the first fight, you're going to want to have everyone respawn together, regroup together, and you're either going to hit Lightworks or Waterworks again, just as a whole team, try again a team fight, perhaps sneak around here to mines, but you're just going to end up team fighting there as well, because their team is going to peel out and defend. If you absolutely can't win team fights, if you just keep losing team fights over and over, it's not the end of the world. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have some of your team come here to hit 1 base, some of your team come here to hit the other base, and you're going to lose the fight where their main team is, but you're going to have to hope that your team can win the smaller fight, maybe a 5 versus 3 or something, get the base cap really quickly, and the moment you get a base cap, the rest of your team comes around to whichever one won and defends it. And now essentially you're playing defense again with 2 bases, which is a very favorable advantage. That's all there is to it really for this map. Yeah, the defender's advantage is so big on base capture maps. Just try really, really hard to win that first team fight. It makes such a big difference. But at the same time, on this map, never give up, because if you just held 2 bases, like even if the point deficit is really massive, like you think you can't win from a 1,000 point deficit, but you can on this map. The points gain is just massive from 2, so always keep trying to recapture another base. Next map we're looking at here is another classic, Arathi Basin. There's also a base capture map. There's going to be a base here, gold mines, blacksmith, lumberyard, and farm. Each of these bases has a spawn point, but you also get a graveyard in your own spawn point back at the start as well. So this map, at first it may seem similar to Battle for Gilneas, but really it's quite a different beast altogether, because there's 5 bases overall. Most commonly you have one team holding 3 and one team holding 2, and the points gained between 3 and 2 is much more similar, so you have to hold your 3 bases for a pretty long time before you actually secure a victory here. Similarly, however, it is really hard to take a base back once you've lost it. Defender's advantage is really big because it's really easy to spin flags. So try your best to just cap 3. Don't overextend and get 4 and 5. It just never works out. You're going to start falling behind really quickly. So generally for the strat, what you're going to do is you're going to have one player come here and capture stables. This is your free base that you're almost always going to have. You're going to have your rogue and perhaps boomkin or another stealth come to mines to help capture that. Your tank is going to come around here with the healer, tank and healer, to capture blacksmith. And most of your team, the rest of your DPS and healers, 2 healers, is going to come up here to fight for lumber mill. So the reason lumber mill is so important is because of the elevation of this map. Whoever wins the fight at lumber mill is able to just jump down with some floating skills like slow fall or levitation and take the fight to blacksmith and help your tank win here, and then continue on down and fight for gold mine as well. However, because of the cliff here and here, you can't go the other way, right? You can't go back up. Like if you come and win gold mine, it's not as valuable as winning lumber mill because you just don't have as much options from here to go. Like basically your only choice is to go here and fight for farm, which is bad because they're able to respawn really close to it. So I mentioned here, stables of course is your free point. After whoever wants to capture this one potentially could be allowed to help whichever of the 3 needs help, but it's dangerous because leaving a base open, the enemy rogue or stealth class can sneak in and take it from you. The battle of mines is mostly like a 2v2 or 1v1 duel. Better players just win here, simple as that. Blacksmith is a spin node, so tank and healer versus tank and healer, no one's gonna die. You're basically just waiting for whoever can win the lumber mill fight to jump on down and take the win for you. For the team fight up at lumber mill, you had to be really careful with the big cliff here. Obviously being knocked off, even if you don't die from the fall, if you have slow fall or something, you're essentially dead because you're taken out of the fight, and numbers advantage is going to help your enemy team win. It takes really long to walk all the way around and get back up, and by then team fight's probably already over. So definitely don't stand near the edge. There's tons of abilities that knock off and mind control and stuff. Just don't do it. At the same time, knocks are quite useful at blacksmith as well. If you're able to push people off into the water, it's pretty hard for them to get back around. There's actually a little cliff here which blocks entrance up into blacksmith, so watch out for that as well. You don't want to be too close to this edge against enemy priests or something like that. Remember that you only need 3 bases to win, and you don't want to overcommit because overcommitting just means that your bases are more vulnerable for taking. So if you're, for example, fighting here at mines, and your team takes lumber mill and then takes blacksmith, just leave, right? Come back out and defend with your team. You can give this up to the enemy team and it's totally okay. Even if you're about to win or something, but they can spin for a bit longer, it's still better to come out and help your team so you don't lose 1 to 3 bases that you already fought for. If you're on the losing end of the initial team fight, if either your team fight dies here and they get blacksmith and lumber mill, what you're gonna have to do is wait for the respawn, probably at stables, regroup, right? Regroup together and just split up again and hit different bases. It's gonna be really difficult because spinning with healers is really powerful. They're gonna keep you off the flag much easier than you getting the flag. You're gonna have to watch the movement of the enemy players. Wherever the healers go or the tanks go, you have to avoid them and try to sneak off and find somewhere that has very few DPS and kill them and get the flag really quick before they're able to reinforce it. It's quite difficult to do, honestly. Once you fall behind on this map, for the first 3 bases, it's really hard to recover. What you can do is, if you have good stealth classes like a Roman and Boomkin, they can try to sneak around and hit farms if they're being distracted. Just make sure not to overcommit when you might need team fight somewhere else, or if you do end up capturing a 3rd base, just give up the 4th base and go back to defend wherever you got. If you're on the winning team, if you captured your 3 bases, what you want to do is make sure you have people sitting at each base to defend, right? Probably 2. And the rest of your players, the other 6, are kind of just standing in the middle, you know, here and maybe here, just getting ready to assist whichever one the enemy bases come to, because you don't know where they're going to go to yet. So just keep on the watch for where they're going and try to match your numbers to spin the base. The most dangerous thing that is going to end your hold on the 3 bases is when you overcommit. So if they have like enemy team, tank, 2 healers, and a DPS, like, you know, less than half your team here fighting, and you have most of your team fighting, and you don't notice, you know, you're being too much, you have too much numbers here. What can happen is they're not going to get this base, but the 2 of you are just going to clash here forever, while some rogues or something are going to sneak by and capture none of your bases. And if they get that, then they have 3, and now you're on the back foot. So just watch for numbers, be quick to peel. You don't have to win every team fight when you're defending, just make sure they don't get the flag. Next up we have Deepwind Gorge. The new Deepwind Gorge has been changed a couple years back actually, so most of you might not even know the old version with the cards and stuff. But anyways, weirdly enough, it was really hard for me to find a map of this. I had to end up using someone else's in-game screenshot for this, but you know, we'll make do. So this is a map that's similar to Arathi Basin. You have 5 bases. Horde spawns here, Alliance spawns over here, and yeah, there's 1 graveyard at each base that you get when you own the base. And yeah, similarly, you just hold 3 points and you eventually build up enough points to win. Don't overextend for the 4th. The buffs on this map are kind of interesting, where you have the leaf here, and at this base you have Berserk up on these cliffs, which is quite hard to get to. You also have another Berserk up on a little ledge over here, and then in this building here and up in Shrine you have like a cooldown reset buff, which you don't see in other battlegrounds. Basically you get it and resets all your cooldowns, which is great. The graveyards are actually quite interesting on this map as well. They're all up here in these, actually let me use a different color. They're all up here on these big cliffs, quite a ways away from each of the bases, a little bit hard to get back to, and quite away from middle as well. It's also annoying in that because of the elevation, if you jump off without following the big spiral around, you end up taking a lot of damage before you can get back to the fight. So one important thing to note about this map is that it's really big. Just to travel between one base to here, for example, takes a really long time, same as going, you know, this way. Basically any way you go from one base to another, it's a really long distance. It takes a long time to get there. What this means actually is that it's really hard to defend bases. If enemy has any stealth, or even if they don't have stealth, like if you have your players here and the enemy is coming in this way to assault this base of yours, you just, even if you see them going, you can't react in time, right? By the time you go over, like, I don't even know, however which way around to get back to your base, if they outnumber you here, they might have already killed you and taken this base at that point. This makes it different from Arathi Basin in that even if you're holding 3 points, you're gonna have to fight much harder to try to hold all 3 of them. Your floaters might have to be farther away, like up here is a great spot, or like over here. Even then you might not make it up in time to defend this base, but yeah, you're just gonna have to try your best. So in terms of opener, because the middle is the place that has actually access to each and every base, it's the most contested for points. You're gonna have your tank or your rogue come to this base, another your players come here, the rest of your DPS comes around to fight at mid. You're gonna want your top DPS branching off here, pick up this Berserk, and then join the fight at mid as well. And hopefully a couple seconds into the fight, after you've popped your cooldowns, sneak in here, grab this buff, and come out and fight again. So because of what I mentioned earlier, with how big the map is, you have to pay really close attention. Like if you're fighting at mid here, and you're expecting to see 8, right? 1 per base to capture and 8 in the middle. If you only see like 5 or 6, you know they have 3 players somewhere else. And that means that their other players are either gonna come around this way, or maybe come around this way. And you need to try to spot for them, right? If you have someone here who can look out on a cliff or out here, and peel out the right amount of people to go defend your base. You need to make sure that you're not just held in middle fighting, spinning being spun by like less players than you have, and you lose one of your first bases, and they hold the 3 that are like 2 of their own and 1 of yours on your side. On the other hand, if you want to be the aggressor in that sense, if you send more of your team around this way to capture a base at the start, here, here, and here, and here, you need to be careful that if you get caught going this way to the enemy base and they do successfully peel out to defend, you're at a disadvantage at mid because they had some peelers fighting there to push an advantage, whereas your players were just completely off and not fighting a mid at all. Similar to all the base capture maps, it takes 6 seconds of channeling to capture the base, and any single hit breaks you out, so it's really easy to defend bases if you have players there, that is. After the initial team fight, this map becomes a lot more freeform because of how big it is and the lack of transportation between the different bases. You're just going to have to gather your group of people if you're behind, like if you lost a mid fight and you're 2 to 3, form up into small groups and try to hit the other bases, preferably simultaneously so that they don't know where to go to defend, and try to win one of the fights so you can get the flag, at which point you can have everyone peel off and defend that base so that you don't lose it and you can start building up points with your 3 advantage. If you happen to win the fight or at any point you hold 3 bases, it's not going to be easy, but just going to have to try your best to have floaters ready to defend, 2 bases. Try to match numbers of the opponents. If you have matching numbers, you should be able to spin the base and get points. Hold 3 for long enough to build up a point lead, and eventually you'll win the game. Okay, here we have Eye of the Storm. So there's towers here, 4 towers total. And you got a flag in the middle, and you have your spawn points. And at each of the bases, if you're holding the base, then you get a graveyard at that base. So this map is a combination of base capture and flag capture, but it's still points based in terms of like ticking up, and the main core of the fight of the map is actually still going to be the bases and not the flag. When you capture this flag and bring it back to a base that you own, you get points equal to how many bases you currently have controlled. What this means is that if you get the flag, but the enemy team has 3 bases, and you keep capturing over and over, you're still going to lose. Just the point gain from the 3 bases is large enough to win for you, assuming you at least spin the flag at just a couple seconds each time. With that in mind, the most important thing to go for is making sure you hold 2 bases and then try to win the mid-fight for flag. And if you can't win the mid-fight for flag, that's when you have to go fight for a 3rd base. So start of the game strat is simple enough. You have a tank, go to 1 base. You have a rogue, go to the other base, and the entire rest of your team, 8 players, comes to mid to fight the battle here. The reason you have the rogue go to this flag here is that after you capture it, you can go stealth, and that way the enemy team doesn't know if you're going to sneak off to this other base, if you're going to help mid at fight to win it faster, or if you just sit here and defend a base. There is a buff inside each of the bases, inside the tower itself, or between the legs or whatever of the Fel Reaver. Yeah, so make sure you get that if you're defending a base. One really important thing to note on this map is, of course, that there are no boundaries. So like if you come off the edge anywhere, especially in the middle here, you just die. So they did put up walls in the RBG version of this, different from regular RBGs, where these pillars and these walls help you to not get knocked off. What this means is for most of the fight, you probably want to be standing inside of this little circle in the middle here. That way you don't just get knocked, and generally you're very safe in the middle here. No matter which direction you get hit, you get blocked by something. If you are classed with a knock, if you're a priest or a shaman or a druid, and you see anyone standing like farther back or out in this area on the little bridge, you can easily just run over and just give them a knock. You get a quick kill with the knock this way, and it kind of just secures you winning the fight, and it really swings the game. So if you see that you're winning the fight in mid, it's great, but what you're going to do is make sure you keep winning the fight to get the flag, but you might want to keep watch and pull some people back to the base, because the enemy team is going to be hitting your bases next if they can't win the fight at mid. Once again, even if you get the flag mid at win, if you lose one of your bases and they're holding 3, you're going to start falling behind actually. On this map, it's quite easy to defend because of this nice walkway here. Basically, if you're chilling in the middle here, you can defend any base that you want really easily. Just have good communication of where the enemy is going towards. If you're losing the fight at middle, you don't want to just give it up right away. Like, you can definitely spin it with healers and tanks as long as possible to hold them off from capturing a flag and getting points. But what you want to do is, people who res, you're gonna have to sneak around to other bases and try to capture those. Force people out of mid so you can either maybe try to retake mid to win, or get one of these bases to start getting more points. That's all there's really to this map. Just repeat that over and over. Basically, if you're holding 2 bases, try to win mid. If you're winning mid, hold 2, defend 2, and run the flag. If you're losing mid, then try to capture a 3rd base and put them off mid that way. Even winning a single flag cap is a big deal because, of course, it's easy to defend. So if you're holding 2 bases and you're holding 2 bases and you're just spinning mid forever, eventually you're going to win if you get even one flag cap more than the opposing team.